How do I look? Do I look impressive? How's this? How about this? All right, let's get going here. Why am I in shirt and tie today? Well, I had a job interview. So I'm hoping to be able to share all this stuff that's been on my YouTube channel with everybody else. Um, so, put some good vibes out there for me. Okay, short video today, believe it or not. Um, this has been brought to my attention a lot of times. It's part and parcel of the inflated sense of entitlement and indulgence. What is the issue? The issue is that parents don't want to say no to their kids. You know, okay, let me just make this whole developmental thing short. Common sense, right? We're all little. We grow up pretty vulnerable. We don't know a lot. So we have to get some pretty elementary information in order to stay alive. Pretty basic stuff. Everything from how to feed ourselves, how to go to the toilet, how to look both ways before crossing the street. And then, of course, as we get older, how to socialize, get along with other people, right? So there's a lot of things that we need to learn. One of the things we need to learn, and we call this in development, human development, is discipline. We all need discipline. Discipline means to enter into some sort of a study, if you will, some sort of a body of knowledge that will inform me about how to be effective across the board, whether it's my mental health, physical health, social health, spiritual health, whatever it is. There are various disciplines in the world that help us with that because we need discipline. Disciplines offer us boundaries, all right? As a family counselor over the last 12 years, parents talk a lot about boundaries. I need to set boundaries. Well, that's true. Now, with when kids reach, like 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever and beyond, they're obviously their mental capacity, their capacity to understand things increases. And so, you can set your teenager down and go, what do you think? Was that really the right thing to do? I know that you're a much more courageous, much more thoughtful person. So you're starting to point out their virtues of being thoughtful and courageous, and then asking them, geez, do you think what you did was the right thing to do? So you're introducing abstract concepts like virtues. Those things are not going to be understood by a little kid. They're not going to be understood. So many parents, because they've been shamed themselves, they've been hoodwinked, by what's going on in the culture to kind of talk to their little kids as if they were adults. They just do not have the cognitive capacity to understand abstract concepts. When we're little, we just need elementary school. We just need A, B, C, D, E, right? We just need the basic building blocks. We need to get information from you, mom and dad, that will help us stay alive, right? But here's the psychological thing that people are throwing out the window, if you will, throwing out the baby with the bathwater. It's important that especially when it comes to life-threatening things, that as we get older, we have the ability within our minds to say no, absolutely not. There are lines that we should not cross, because to do so puts us in psychological or physical jeopardy. This may be something that we call a moral line, something you shouldn't say, something you shouldn't do, even though maybe you have every kind of contemporary right to, like revenge. No, do not go there. Why? Because if you take revenge, what do they say? Dig 2 graves, right? Simple illustration, right? On things that we get tempted by, but we need to say no. And we not only need to say no, we need to like not engage some part of ourself that's going to try to bargain its way in the door. It's almost like the little devil and the little angel on our shoulders. We say no, and then the little devil starts to whisper in your ear, oh, it's okay if you just have one drink, if it's okay if you just have one smoke, it's okay if you just, lose it this one time, everything's going to be okay. You can repair that. No, 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 no. We don't want to go down that road. That's the road of temptation. Because a lot of things that we're going to experience in life later on, especially as we grow older, as kids grow older, are going to be much more powerful in terms of temptation. Of course, puberty hits, what? Sexuality is going to be one of those greatest temptations that kids hit, whether it's beginning to, if you will, be tempted by pornography or be tempted by flirtations or promiscuity or what have you. We need to be able to say no, just no. Now, all the reasons for that later, which some are very moral and abstract, and psychological in nature, like let me give you one, right? The reason why people shouldn't be engaged in promiscuous sex is because sex releases this really powerful neurotransmitter or chemical in our brain called oxytocin, right? You've probably heard the term oxy. It's highly, highly addictive. But oxytocin is also that chemical that gives us the warm, fuzzy feeling when we fall in love. Think of oxytocin as the glue between two people when they meet. Let's say you're flirting with somebody. Let's say you have, a boyfriend or girlfriend and you hold hands. Let's say all these things release oxytocin and they help you feel warm and fuzzy towards the person. They help you feel close to the person. When we look at a newborn baby, when we look at, a cute little puppy, all these things elicit oxytocin. When somebody, gives you a nice back rub or neck rub or, scratches your head or whatever those things are that you like, that releases oxytocin. Oxytocin is so important in intimacy. So what happens if you're constantly releasing oxytocin and then separating, oxytocin and then separating, oxytocin and then separating, especially high levels of it. So if somebody is involved in promiscuous sex and they're having this just super elevated experience of oxytocin and then they separate, what's going to happen? Well, let me just keep it short. What's going to happen is that people are going to become thick-skinned. You know what it means to become thick-skinned? Well, if you've ever, like, I'm a baseball player, and as a baseball player, every baseball season, especially because I was a pitcher, but any baseball player will develop calluses on their throwing fingers. Or anybody who does hard work repetitively will develop calluses on your fingers. Calluses are what? They're actually thick skin that protect your nerve endings. That's good that you get that protection, but at the same time, you can't feel anything. It's harder and harder to feel something. That's the point of it. And that's what happens to people when they're constantly involved in promiscuous sex. They become calloused individuals. They no longer care. It gets harder and harder for them to feel anything. And pretty soon it leads to depression. Rather than take those temptations, we have to have the ability to say no, no. All temptations, or what are known as indulgences, are only designed to do one thing, to deplete us and to eventually take our lives. Another big thing here is, of course, we're involved in an opioid epidemic, drugs, or video gaming. We need to have the ability to say no. Enough is enough. There's a line that you don't cross, because after a while it becomes what? It becomes an indulgence, and an indulgence always depletes us and will eventually take our lives. So we need to be able to say no. When do we develop that ability to say no? We develop it when we're little kids. When our parents say no, and they don't provide some long explanation that the child would never understand anyway, or they would eventually learn to either parrot back or mimic or take advantage of. You know, parents just need to say no, not right now. No. Now, fundamentally, let's say your child comes up to you and wants your attention, but yet you're working or you're talking to somebody else or whatever. That's an excellent time to say no. I hear you. I will get back to you in 5 minutes. Mommy, daddy, I hear you. Thank you for letting me know. No, then you putting your hand up also can become very effective visually. No, you're setting up a physical boundary. No. When your child does something that they should not do, say no sternly. Now, I say sternly, but I'm not saying lose it, but your voice has to carry some strength, because what you're doing is you're embedding this capacity. So when we say no to something in the future, it's almost like we have our parents' voice in us that says no. We're familiar with no and what it means. No means no, right? No means no. No bargaining, you know, nothing like this. No rationale, no minimizing, no. Okay, guys, this is going to be the end of the video, right? I want you though to feel secure. I want you to know that it's important to say no and to set those hard boundaries, especially when your kids are little, because those are the voices that they're going to hear when they come up against temptation when they get older. Again, whether it's the video gaming, whether it's promiscuous sex, whether it's being tempted by drugs or alcohol, no, there's a line in the sand that you do not cross, and it is not up for debate. That needs to be understood. I know a lot of parents have a hard time saying no, and a lot of times parents have a hard time saying no because somewhere in their mind they feel guilty about doing it. And a lot of times for parents, that has to do with parents who were very critical that raised them. And so they made a promise to themselves that someday when they had a kid, they would never, be that critical. They would never treat their child like they were treated, which unfortunately they throw out the baby with the bathwater, and now they don't set firm boundaries. The child, being a narcissistic child, starts to play them, and pretty soon it becomes a yelling match, a screaming match, and pretty soon it sets the stage for the child to become susceptible to temptation in the future. So parents, know that when you say no and it's not up for debate and no means no, you're doing your child a great favor, not only for that particular time, but for the rest of their life. All right, take care.